Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello. Just a quick note before this episode begins. I made a mistake. Jane Schoenbrunn, who is the director of the film that we are watching a trailer for, they also directed I Saw the TV Glow. They use they, them pronouns, and I mistakenly messed up on that. So I just wanted to apologize and add a note here that they use they, them pronouns. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Pop Culture and Fandom News. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on Friday's episode, we are kicking off Topic Month with a look at neurodiversity in media. And joining me for that episode and this week's episode of Pop Culture and Fandom News is, first up from OK Real Quick, Carla. Hello, Carla.
Hello, Erin. I'm so happy to be here among all of the fandom thingers thinking fandom thinking thingy things.
Okay.
It's only 2 recordings for me today, but my brain doesn't exactly have to be any more cooperative than anybody else's, apparently.
Yeah, because for people out there listening, if my brain goes kaput, this is my first one, though, so it shouldn't go kaput in the first one. I am recording 4 podcast episodes today, so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be on for a long time today. But also joining me today is Sara, who also suggested the neurodiversity in media topic for Friday. So hello, Sara.
Hello.
Thank you both so much for joining me. So let's kick off some pop culture and fandom news. So Carla, you know the first topic. It's something you're into, looking forward to, want to rage about. You know the drill.
How about something that makes me feel a little bit icky? Because that's my fandom feeling today. All right. So I went to watch 2 movies yesterday. The first one that I watched was How to Make a Killing, which don't bother watching it. It is probably the most terrible film I've seen in the past 2 years. Not even for streaming. It's not even like, oh, haha, just watch it on streaming. No, don't bother. It is so bad. It's a complete waste of your time and my time. I want my hour and 45 minutes plus 30 minutes of previews back. I didn't sit for the previews because I actually got in as the movie was starting, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is, the second movie that I watched, I went to see Solo Mio with, what's the guy from King of Queens? Kevin James.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kevin James and Andrea Bocelli is in it. And I'm like, okay, sure. But here's the thing. I'm sitting there watching it and I'm watching these previews and I'm like, these previews are weird. And then the movie starts and then you see the production studio and it's Angel Studios. And I'm like, okay, now I understand.
Oh, no.
Yes. And I was ambushed by an Angel Studios film. And so what is Angel Studios? Angel Studios is a studio dedicated to movies that their mission is to share stories that amplify light. You might be asking yourself, what does that mean? Because I know I ask myself, what does that mean? And if you go to their website, how do we define light? Because, they amplify light. So how do we define light? Stories that are true, honest, noble, just, authentic, lovely, admirable, and excellent. None of which actually tell you a damn thing. None of them. But if you look at their history of their films, they're all very Christian-centered movies. They're all movies about Jesus and God being Jesus and Jesus being God and Jesus doing godly things and godly things being done through Jesus' hands. In his name we pray. But that's not to say that, Christians are inherently evil and therefore we should never trust them. But I do question a studio founded on this specifically because of the climate that we're in, politically, socially, economically even. It's just very creepy to me that there's a whole studio dedicated to this. Because the thing is, when you combine Christians and money, which are not actually supposed to be a combination, by the way, if you follow the real teachings of Jesus, bad things happen when God mixes with money. That's my takeaway. So I'm very weary and skeptical, and again, icked out by the idea of there being a whole studio pumping out what is basically going to end up being propaganda movies. So, yeah. Now, in fairness to specifically Solo Mio, it's cute. It's a sweet, like rom-com kind of, I don't know about the comedy part of it, but it's a sweet movie that didn't make me feel like I needed to go take 5 holy baths having watched it. But still, the intention behind the studio, like if they throw in a couple that kind of like pass muster and don't seem quite as propaganda-y as the others, that's a way of like pulling in more people to then kind of throw the agenda over the top of that. So, be on the lookout, basically. This is a bolo for films when you're enticed to see a movie and maybe you don't pay attention to the studios to put them out. I know I usually don't, but I'm going to be a lot more careful in looking at movies that are coming out because, yeah, I'm not pleased with Angel Studios as a concept.
Yeah, and this has been a thing I think there's a couple others that are like that too, and it's very much like all of a sudden you'll see movies that are out in like AMC or Regal or other places like that, and you'll be like, I've never even heard of this movie. What is this movie? And a lot of times it will be those, and you'll see like there'll be like sold out showings or lots of people seeing them because it'll be like church groups going and
Yeah.
and seeing them. So yeah, it's been a big thing. Like I haven't, and I'm sure there have been other Alamos that have done it, but that's been one of the things that I'm sure it'll change now, but that had been a positive about Alamo is there would be movies that Alamo shows that you've never heard of, but they're usually part of Fantastic Fest, which is for indie films, a lot of times weird films or horror films, but you wouldn't see them so much there. But yeah, they'd be those weird things that show up, and then there'd be actors in them that you maybe like or know about, and so you're like, oh, okay, it is this weird thing. I know I saw this thing. It was like probably a decade or so ago, maybe on, I think it was 60 Minutes, back when 60 Minutes could be 60 Minutes, and they were talking about those studios and then the rise of them. So yeah, I think it goes along with the rise of Christian nationalism and everything like that. So
yeah.
Thank you. But I also can't get over that How to Make a Killing is one of the worst movies you've seen in the past couple of years. That's
my God.
Wow.
I was like, even a bad movie, you can usually find a couple of things to be like, well, I enjoyed that aspect of it. I enjoyed none of it. I enjoyed none of it except for like the 7 minutes that Topher Grace was in it. And only because he was in it and I love him. And everything else sucked. By the way, I'm not actually attracted to Glenn Powell. I found this out the hard way. I only am attracted to him when he's shirtless. And it was such a shock to me to find this out. I was telling Erin, I learned things the hard way today.
And having to sit through a whole movie from Angel Studios is also learning things the hard way.
I'm telling you, yesterday was very educational and not in a way that I enjoyed.
Ooh. So, Sarah, what is one thing you're into?
No, I'm not going to rage, but I am going to be sad. No raging, just sadness. So I have to get my emotional support Perpetua because Ghost is officially on hiatus. They're not touring. They're not recording any new music. So last Monday was the last show that they're going to be that they will do for several years. And all of us Ghost fans are very sad about this, but also very understanding because Tobias does need to take a break. He has 17-year-old twins that he would like to spend some time with. So I understand, but we're all very, very sad about this. So I'm just going to sit here and mope and be sad.
I'm sorry.
With my emotional support Perpetua.
Aw.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, I am very sad about it. But I mean, this was announced months ago that after this tour that Tobias said he would not be going back into the studio. And he doesn't know when he's going back into the studio, but he said he has 2 film projects he's working on and he's doing recording for something else that he's been very vague about. So I'm curious to see about the film projects. So I'm not sure if it's ghost related or if he is doing soundtrack for something upcoming. We don't know yet. But, we've all been, this is sort of like Supernatural ending when that ended. And we were all very sad, even though I don't want to talk about the series finale. But for me, it feels, even though I know they're going to be back, it's still very sad because their music has been like a coping mechanism. I use music a lot to cope and just the fandom and their music has been just a great support outlet for me over the past few years. So to not have any new music upcoming, no touring or anything, it's sort of leaving a little hole there, but it will be fine. It will go quick and they will be back.
Yeah.
So that's what I keep telling myself. So I'm going to go be sad now.
Aw. Yeah, I had a feeling this was what you were going to be talking about.
I mean, there were other things I'm very excited.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, but
well, I'm glad you got to see them though again. So
I am too.
Yeah, so that's good. And it's funny because I recommend this with like the caveat that this is not the best show I've ever seen at all. It's one that even though it's ended on a cliffhanger, and I want a second season, I won't be like truly devastated if we never get a second season to this because, yeah. But I watched the show The Burbs, which is on Peacock right now, and it is based on the Tom Hanks movie from the 80s called The Burbs. And it is about a young couple that moves back to the husband's childhood home only to face threats from new neighbors and uncover dark secrets of their cul-de-sac. And the reason I started watching it is because it stars Keke Palmer in the main starring role. And she's married to this guy played by Jack Whitehall. And so that was kind of what appealed to me about it was Keke Palmer. And I just kind of was like, okay, I don't know what to watch, so I'm just going to watch this. And it's fun. It's not like once again, like I said, it's not like one of the best, like, campy, I don't know if campy is the right word, but like it's kind of like a comedy whodunit mystery, but it's really with a bunch of like kooky characters, that kind of thing. And it's very much like talking about the suburbs and also the evils of HOAs and all of that. But I just got into it and thought it was fun and wanted to know who the person was who did some things I'm not going to say. I did figure out one of the first big twists. I figured it out the second this one person was introduced. So that was kind of a bummer, but it was fun. And I really enjoyed watching Keke Palmer in it. And I liked a lot of the other cast as well. That's the big highlight for this is the acting is amazing. And what was also a big highlight for me is I don't know if either of my panelists or anyone out there watched was it called just the Newharts when they owned that place in like Vermont and it was the bed and breakfast. Did anyone
ever?
It
was just Newhart.
Yeah. Because Bob Newhart also had the show before that, but then there was that one and they owned that bed and breakfast and you had the Darryls. I'm Daryl and this is my other brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
Yeah, Larry, Daryl, Daryl, yes. And one of the people from there who she was like kind of like snobby and snotty and she was played by Julia Duffy, who I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I love Julia Duffy.
She's in this and she is so good and she's having so much fun and she's playing this very, very kooky person and just you can tell she's having a blast like playing this really like kind of like I don't know. I don't want to give away too much because there's this huge twist with her character too. And then also for Supernatural fans out there, and I was like, whoa, hey, it's him. And I'm not really necessarily a big fan of the actor outside of there, but Chad Lindbergh, who of course played Ash in Supernatural, is in this as well. So for Supernatural fans out there. And it's just a great cast. Lots of fun people. Lots of people having a ton of fun in this movie. So this show. Sorry, it was a movie. So once again, that's on Peacock, because Peacock, I think, is one of those slept on streaming platforms, honestly, in a lot of respects. So I recommend a lot of stuff on there, you know. Plus, that's where Supernatural is now, if you didn't know.
That's right.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to look at the trailer. I changed it, and I don't know if my panelists saw that I changed the trailer.
Oh, no.
No.
So we're going to watch the trailer for Teenage Sex and Death at Camp MIASMA, which is a new Jane Schoenbrunn film, who, if you don't know, did I Saw the TV Glow. So this is why I changed this.
Ooh, yes.
That's why we're watching this instead. And also, I'm not going to tell you who else is in this movie, but I know it will bring about a lot of excitement. So yeah, so we'll be right back.
Every group has someone who insists on doing things the hard way. They might be paying for a subscription they forgot they had, or refusing to update their phone because it still works. It's easy to be that person, especially when it comes to something that feels so simple as your wireless plan. But if you're overpaying for wireless, switching to Mint Mobile couldn't be easier. In fact, switching is so easy, it makes staying with your existing provider the hard option. With Mint Mobile, you bring your own phone and number, activate with an eSIM in minutes, and start saving immediately. No long contracts and no hassle. It's the same coverage, same speed, just without the inflated price tag. It's the premium wireless you expect. Unlimited talk, text, and data, but at a fraction of what others charge. And for a limited time, you can get 50% off 3, 6, or 12-month plans of unlimited premium wireless. Plus, they offer a 7-day money-back guarantee, just in case you want to switch back. Mint Mobile is a game changer if you want to stop feeling like you're overpaying and not receiving a good service. As a customer who has made the switch, my wireless has gone from being a bill that I hate paying to someone that I boast about to all of my friends. Ready to stop paying more than you have to. New Mint Mobile customers can make the switch today and, for a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/fandom. That's mintmobile.com/fandom.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required, $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com.
Okay, so it's that time. Hit pause on us. Check the show notes. This is a horror movie, so, you know, if you don't want to watch a horror trailer, you know, you can just not watch it and just listen to our reactions. But we're going to be watching the trailer for, and I looked up the pronunciation. So, because I was like, how in the world? I want to make sure I'm saying that right. And it is miasma. So it's Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. So here we go. So hit pause, watch that. And then when you hit play again, we will be back with our thoughts. Okay, so we just watched the trailer for Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. And I want to say they have the title of this like capitalized in all caps everywhere. So Carla, had you even heard of this movie? And what are your thoughts on the trailer, since I changed the trailer from what we were going to watch?
You know what? I have a lot of thoughts right away. And the reason is I was already, I was into this style. You know, I just yesterday I was reading about somebody who posted on Reddit about having watched, I saw the TV Glow, and their very strong emotional reaction to it and how unexpected that was for them. So I was already like primed with, I saw the TV Glow mental emotional nostalgia. And then I watched this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks fascinating because I don't know. It doesn't give away a lot about where the movie's taking you, which I really like because trailers give us way too much, I feel. But then, you know, you add in Gillian Anderson and I'm all in. You already had me at hello, and then you add Gillian Anderson and it's like, okay, you don't need to say any more. I already told you I was going. But one of the things that I found so interesting is that the visual style from what we could see in the trailer reminded me a lot of Gillian Anderson's own style when she directed an episode of The X-Files, which is visually one of my favorite episodes. I don't remember much about the story, so I don't know that that it made that much of an impact otherwise. But visually, it was stunning, and this made me remember that. Also a little bit reminiscent of how I felt watching The Cell. This is different. When you go and watch the trailer, you'll see like, oh, Carla, what are you talking about? It only makes sense in my head, and that's fine too. But I am very ready to go and watch this. This looks fascinating.
Yeah, as someone who will defend The Cell forever because I love that movie so dang much.
It's so good. Frankly, underrated.
Yes, it's one of the most beautiful movies to watch, and one of the most amazing performances put to film from Vincent D'Onofrio, who should have been nominated for an Academy Award. Anyway, we're not going to go down that route. You can go listen to Jen and I talk about the movie on Twin It to Win It. But yeah, so now I'm going to have to watch the trailer again through that because I see what you're saying. I saw so much of I Saw the TV Glow that I wasn't paying attention to that. But I see sort of what you're saying with the visuals and the color and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sarah.
I have not seen I Saw the TV Glow yet, so I can't comment on that. But this looks intriguing. And I agree with Carla. Like the trailer doesn't really give anything away. You can't really tell what the story will be from that. And, I was interested add Gillian Anderson into anything and I am there because I have absolutely loved her since The X-Files. And it looks like this comes out on my dad's birthday. Not that he would want to see it because he is not a horror movie person. But I can go celebrate his birthday by going to see it.
I'd like you to just tell your dad that. I'm celebrating your birthday by watching this movie that you'd never want to watch.
Yeah, he is not a horror movie person. Like, we convinced him to watch The Sixth Sense years ago just because of the twist. I mean, everyone knows what it is now. And even that, like when it's all revealed at the end, he was like, so what? Like, he was completely confused by the whole. But anyway, no, this looks really interesting. So I think I'm going to need to check out I Saw the TV Glow now as well, because I know Erin's been raving about that for a while. Or when did it come out? What, 2 years ago? 2 years ago? Something like that.
We did a whole episode talking about it too, everybody. So
that's right. Yes.
Carla and I did that episode.
That's right. So I think I'll have to check that one out too before this.
Yeah.
And very interesting title.
Yeah, I'm of course going to see it because, well, first off, just because of who did the film. I Saw the TV Glow so much. I mentioned how the first time I saw the TV Glow, even though they're not the same movie at all, it was very reminiscent of the first time when I saw Donnie Darko, and as far as the emotional impact of the movie was for me. I think it's a beautiful, amazing film. And the performances are incredible in that movie too. So, and the soundtrack is just beautiful. So that intrigues me. Just who is making the film intrigues me right off the bat. And then the cast and, has me pulled in as well. And also, this looks like such a different take on the typical, because I knew she was making a movie that was like a slasher-esque film, like taking place at like a camp, like that kind of thing. But this looks like it's that kind of movie, but with a totally different spin on it and her signature style on it as well. So that intrigues me too. So I am very, very, very excited about it. Will hopefully hopefully it's as good as I Saw the TV Glow, and it'll be just interesting to see a different take on slashers. I do want to say, and this speaks to the whole purity movement we have going on with younger generations, but there was some outrage over this trailer because teenage sex, people were outraged about that. People were like, this is so disgusting. Like, so.
But this is the same world in which, you know, the movie that I watched last night, that Angel Studios movie, there was no kissing. And anytime that they got close to kissing, it's like, no, we can't. So.
I was just going to say they can go see an Angel Studio.
Yeah, and it's the same people that are like, there's this whole thing where two of the actors from Heated Rivalry, there's rumors that they're dating. And the fandom is so upset about this, part of the fandom, because of the fact that there's an age difference between them. Like, one is like, I don't know, he's like 20s or 30s, and the other guy is like 40 or whatever. But the thing is people have called the guy in his 40s a pedophile. There was literally someone who called him a pedophile because of that. Like, that's not what
That's
a
not what that
pedophile
word
is.
means. Like, seriously, people just forget what words mean and that they matter in meaning something. And that ticks me off so much. Like, you're detracting from what actual pedophiles do and why what they do is abhorrent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, well, yeah, but when this person was 15, this person was, I'm like, well, they weren't dating when
Right.
this person was 15 or supposedly, allegedly. It's not even like confirmed. It's like, it's just so ridiculous to me because it also is so invalidating to real victims, and it just makes everything worse. And there is this whole movement of wanting to raise the age of consent to be in the 20s. And it's just, oh, thank you. Thank you, Carla. I forgot about that. Thank you. So apologies, everybody. The director uses they, them pronouns. That's on me. I should have looked that up again. I did know that when we were talking about I Saw the TV Glow. It was but thank you. Thank you so much, Carla. So apologies. I will put note in the beginning. So yes, the director of this movie, they use they, them pronouns. So thank you, Carla. But anyway, so yeah, they want to lower like the age of consent to like be in the early 20s or something like that is what I've heard. And I'm like,
when I tell you people take things way too far, like, what are we doing? Because
Yeah,
eventually it's going
right.
to be like, you must be 35 and no longer, like you must be entering perimenopause. So that you have a very tight window for having children so that children aren't forced on you and you're too young to raise children, because children shouldn't be raising children and 25-year-olds are children, according to these people. Like, what are we doing?
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Sorry, but there was a blurb from Polygon about the movie. And the thing is, when I was watching the trailer, I was like, this feels a lot like Mulholland Drive. And I read this after, and it says, Joan Schoenberg's new movie looks like David Lynch meets Friday the 13th in the first trailer. And I'm like, yes, it does.
Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, I can see that.
I definitely see that.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I did want to discuss the BAFTAs. So we will be right back. Okay, so I'm sure everybody out there by now knows what happened at the BAFTAs. John Davidson, who has Tourette's, and he was there because there's a film made about his life that actually won some awards. It's not out yet in the United States, and called I Swear. And he was there for that. And while Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage presenting the first award for the night, John Davidson yelled out the N-word. And it wasn't the only time that was said, other times as well. And it wasn't edited out. This wasn't like a live thing. They had time to edit it out because they did edit out the words Free Palestine. They edited out some other words that John Davidson had said as well. And as this goes on, you learn other things that basically it sounds like that allegedly the BAFTAs and BBC were trying to set up something outrageous happening because they sat John Davidson near a microphone. Which he was baffled by, didn't understand why they did that. And so it felt like it was almost like a setup for shock value in a way and hoping something bad would happen. And of course, after this had happened, there has been a lot of people calling people that are outright outraged by this happening and by the hurt and the pain from a violent word like this being shouted, not only because of the fact that it is affecting Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, but also anyone who's watching, anyone in the audience. Any Black man or woman who's out there watching this would be affected and hurt by that as well. And so people were rightfully wanting an apology, demanding that, wanting it to be edited out and everything like that. And so then there was pushback from people saying that, well, that makes you ableist if you are demanding that. He can't prevent what he's saying, all this stuff. So it has been a whirlwind. And then especially when we learned that John Davidson was sat right by a microphone, which makes it seem like it's on purpose. So, Carla, what are your thoughts on this and how everything was handled or not handled?
I have a million thoughts, but I'll try to give you the condensed version because there's so much going on here. First of all, setting up a microphone from what Imani Barbarin said, and Imani Barbarin is a disability advocate, and she said that to her, it's not inherently weird because having a microphone near an audience member can be a disability, accommodation. Because if you have an audience member who's supposed to speak and you don't necessarily, they can't necessarily get to the stage, you have the mic there. So, but the problem with that is that when somebody sees, oh, we have a disabled person in the audience and we need to provide accommodations, they just serve up whatever accommodations they have on hand without catering to the specific person and their needs. So, somebody who has a disability that doesn't impede their physical movement doesn't need a ramp, for example. But providing them one when there isn't one already built into the set, it's like, okay, but what about their actual disability? So in and of itself, the mic is not a problem. It's the fact that they place a person with Tourette's near a mic, and that can either be two things, full incompetence or a screen to be like, oh, well, we were just providing an accommodation for a disabled person. And that's not, there's a whole other discussion about whether or not Tourette's is a condition or a disability. That's not a fight for me to get into, but just putting that out there for the sake of clearing up the, shedding some light on the microphone thing. It's still a problem because of the kind of disability or condition that this person had. But the bigger problem was that neither the BBC nor the BAFTA saw fit to inform apparently anybody that a person with Tourette's where one of the words that he will occasionally shout is the N-word, didn't inform them that this might be a possibility, and saying you might see an occasional disruption or you might hear occasional, naughty language does not help anybody because it doesn't provide you with context or understanding of what is about to happen. Moreover, the fact that they had 2 hours for the UK airing and up to 6 hours for the US airing and chose willingly not to cut out that particular word is a huge problem. And people have said that, in the UK, there are laws saying that for a kind of disability like that, you can't censor the person because it's seen as censoring an involuntary thing and you're kind of further stigmatizing it. But there has to be nuance. It's one thing if he had shouted bananas or whatever, or the F word. But if you're shouting the N word, which is specific and harmful, that is a major problem. Another thing that people keep doing is they keep doing ableism. They keep saying, that he must be racist because he said this specific word. The problem with Tourette's is that especially in a high pressure situation, the thing that you most fear is the thing that's going to come out of your mouth. When you're in a situation where you think, where somebody might consciously think, oh, it would be terrible if somebody said this particular word, that subconscious part that is the Tourette's is processing itself like, wouldn't it be awful if we said that word right now very loudly to where that specific person could hear it? This does not mean that this particular person with Tourette's is or is not racist, because I don't know that. I've never met this person. I don't know them. I don't know that they are or aren't racist. But to say that they are racist because this is the particular word that they shouted is not really reflective of the reality of how Tourette's works. But again, this is a problem that the BAFTAs and BBC should have mitigated. It was their responsibility to do what was right for both this person and for the Black people who might be subjected to the words that he had said in the documentary. I believe that one of the things brought up in the documentary was that he was involved in a case where he was being sued for something that he said that was part of the Tourette's, and his attorney was Black, and he kept shouting the N-word at his attorney. So it's clear from the documentary even that this was a possibility.
It's not a documentary, just to let you know. It's not. It's a biopic because the actor that played him won Best Actor at the BAFTA. So.
Thank you. So this was a known thing. It should not have been a surprise to anybody who was running the BAFTAs. But none of that negates the impact. Because one thing is what we know about Tourette's now, what we know about this particular person. The other thing is the impact of this person's words. And the impact cannot be mitigated with a simple oopsies because of how the word has historically been used. The fact that people have to say, he said the N-word, tells you how powerful the word is. And there has been so much racism and so much ableism thrown around in the aftermath of this. And I've heard so much of people saying, well, Black people constantly use it. Why can't other people use it? Oh my God, let this argument die. Like, not everything is for you. Just because somebody can do this one thing doesn't mean that you can also do it. Let it go. It should not be that hard to comprehend. Why are you crying that you can't use the N-word? Shut up and sit down. But mostly it just makes me very sad that this is the state of the world, and that if the BBC and the BAFTAs did do this on purpose, that to me, it's just part of the way that tyranny and oppression and fascism work, in that they try to drive wedges between groups of people. So you're trying to drive a wedge between, disabled people and white people and Black people, not to mention the fact that there are Black disabled people. Imagine that. So I'm not saying we should just, shake hands and let it go, but I am saying let's look at the nuance. Let's look at the major villain in this, which is the entity that decided to air this uncut, that decided not to warn the presenters ahead of time that, hey, this might happen, and we will do everything in our power to prevent you from being victimized by this. The people who decided to seat a person with Tourette's who says the N-word near a microphone, because this person, he chose to leave. Like, he was like, I can't. This is awful what I'm doing right now. And it's involuntary, but he recognized that it was a problem and he chose to leave. And the accommodation should not be, the full spectrum of accommodation should not be, well, then he shouldn't have been there, because then you are proposing segregation, and that's not great either. So there are just way too many things in this for it to be cut and dried and simple. And it's just disappointing, but not surprising, the discourse that has come out of this, seeing so many people who are very, very famous and have huge platforms throwing out ableist stereotypes and misinformation about Tourette's and misinformation about what is and isn't voluntary with Tourette's and what is and isn't on purpose with Tourette's. And so many people using this as an excuse to let their racist flag fly. It's just incredibly disheartening to see. So yeah, for the most part, it just makes me sad, and it makes me feel like we are being used as pawns, but also there is very real harm being caused. And how do we go about doing right by each other as people?
Sara?
I actually did not know a lot of that, what you said, Carla, in relation to Tourette's, where you're thinking like, okay, this is the word I can't say. And that's how it manifests, I guess. Is that what you were trying to say?
No, just that, whether or not it's conscious or subconscious with
Mhm.
Tourette's, like there's just a part of like some sublingual, some subconscious part that might be thinking, oh, this would be the worst thing to say. And then, and high pressure situations only exacerbate and raise the possibility of that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not know, but that makes sense that, a stressful situation would make that reaction worse. And if that's all true, that BBC and BAFTA knew this going in, I was reading an article about, it's on BBC. I Swear director says BAFTA's let down Tourette's campaigner. So, he's basically saying that they basically set him up for failure. Even John Davidson said he was talking about the microphone and why, if they knew that this was a possibility, why it was seated that close. Oh, here it is. I remember there was a microphone. I'm quoting the article. This is from an interview he had with Variety. I remember there was a microphone just in front of me, and with hindsight, I have to question whether this was wise, so close to where I was seated, knowing I would tick. So they knew it was there. And if they were aware that this is something that he does, then they are completely at fault. And what they're trying to say is that it was an analyzer microphone which monitors the loudness in the room for equalization purposes. And this is coming from BAFTA. Yeah, I've been reading about it here and there. I didn't see the clip of when it happened, but there is definitely a more gray area here than just what people see on the surface. And if BBC and BAFTA and set this up just as another way to divide people, then I have a few choice words, which I won't say. But that's just, we've got enough going on that's dividing people right now. We don't need this going on either. There was a lot more to this than I initially thought. So it's sad.
It's interesting also watching how people that never seem to care at all about protecting people with disabilities came out of the woodworks and were like, yes, we definitely want to, because of the fact that it was a racist slur. Frankly, that's why. It's like instantly all of these white people are all of a sudden advocates and they care. And so two things, can be true that, we of course don't know, like Carla said, we don't know John Davidson at all on this podcast. We don't know if he is a racist, but we can know that having Tourette's, what it does cause you to do, and does if you have that symptom, because there's different aspects of Tourette's too. Not everybody with Tourette's has this particular tic. Not everybody, it doesn't present the same for everybody out there, but it can be true that can cause you to involuntarily say some of the worst, most despicable words out there. But it also is true that does not negate the harm that word caused, or that hearing it more than once. It's not like he said it just once. It was more than once that was said. So it doesn't negate the harm that does. And the fact that he had yelled out like the word pedophile at one point, he had yelled out, I believe it was, he might have said bitch, or maybe that was what he said, because I know he said that to the Queen, I believe it was, at some other incident outside of here, some other event that he was at. And I believe that might have been portrayed in the movie too. And so they edited that word, they edited out pedophile. So if they're going to use the excuse that, well, we can't really edit out what is said or something, why would you edit out that word, but you're not going to edit out the N word? That's suspect. Right. And also, one of the saddest parts to me about this is the fact that this was a night where Sinners was actually honored with a lot of awards. And so this is overshadowing that. It was, I mean, Ryan Coogler won for Best Screenplay. You had Delroy Lindo won. You had a lot of people winning awards, and you have this is also an awards body that has been accused of racism over and over and over again. And so if you're going to be celebrating people and you're going to be having like all these nominations for a film like Sinners, and then you're going to have this happen, it's really takes away from that. It's like Jamie Lawson was just interviewed on the red carpet for the NAACP Image Awards. And I really, really encourage everybody to listen to what she said. And Jamie Lawson, of course, is also in Sinners and plays Perlene. So I really encourage you to watch what she says because it's really, I think, perfectly put. And she said, you want to celebrate our art, but you don't want to protect it. Also, she said, which I think this is really, really goes to the heart of a lot of what's going on here, is institutionally, we still don't understand what inclusion means. Just because you invite someone into a space, but you don't provide the necessary resources to keep them and everyone else in that room safe by them being there, that's not inclusivity. That's exploitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I encourage, it's a long speech, but I encourage you to go watch her and that speech that she gives because on the red carpet, because I think it is perfectly encapsulates what happened there. And also, Warner Brothers, huge studio, reached out to the BAFTAs right after this happened and said, you need to edit that out. Are you going to edit that out? And and allegedly they said, oh yeah, and then didn't edit it out. So you even got the big studio who right now, Warner Brothers, and there's a whole thing going on there, but you have a big studio calling up and asking them to do that. And they even ignore that. And you also had no one, Delroy Lindo said, no one came from the BAFTAs to see if we were okay. No one reached out to us to see if we were okay after that. And then, you also have Alan Cummings hosting it. And the way he handled it was awful too, because he should have come out there and acknowledged how awful that word is and how it might have hurt people to have to hear that word. But instead, he kind of just said, if you were offended, which is just like, that whole thing of like, almost like get over it. And I read so many tweets of people saying, well, they're rich people, so they can't be hurt by this word, basically. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? It doesn't matter how much money somebody makes. Having a violent racist slur yelled at them, it doesn't mean it's not going to hurt them because they have millions of dollars. I mean.
Right, exactly. Like money is not a shield from racist injury.
Yeah.
Like that's not how money or racism or being Black works.
Yeah. And then also just want to say, because this has happened a lot, but a disability is not an excuse for being racist. So that's the other thing to remember in this too. So the way this was handled was horrible and awful by all accounts. I mean, John Davidson, of course, did himself leave. He wasn't, nobody said you need to leave. He left, went to a green room, actually, another room, and watched the rest of the ceremony. But yeah, the whole thing is just really not okay. Not okay at all. And people are allowed to be angry and upset about this because, I mean, you can't police how people are going to react to this. And people want to because they're like, no. The only one that's hurt by this is John Davidson. And I've heard so many people say that, and that's so not true. We all, I think, have a lot to learn, including me, including all of us, about everything, really. Sorry, that was really poorly worded there. Sorry, go ahead, Carla.
No, just, it's true. It's everything. None of us know everything. And it's one thing for us here, friends in chat groups, to say something that turns out to be misinformation because, we don't know everything. It's another thing for people with huge platforms to throw out that because they're contributing to the general populist misinformation. So, yeah, we all need to do better. And the people who do have access to more information need to do better about how they distribute that information. It's hard right now because of the ways in which media access to information is being throttled and tailored to a very specific message. But all of us need to do better in every aspect of the knowledge that we have, knowing that there are limits to what we know, and seeking more information on everything, because it's a big world, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of things going on, and the more we know about those things, the better. But also remembering we're all just humans, and there's only so much that we can do with the limited time we have.
Yes. And also, I think right now with everything that is happening in the world, it's like every day there's like 1,000 things being thrown at us, and tons of different disasters, and like tons of horrible, awful, horrific things. And it can be a lot to digest. So we are all learning and growing, and we need to be open to learning and growing. That's the other thing, is be open to that and to admitting, faults and mistakes and learning from each other as well. So, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Carla and Sara, for joining me for this week's episode of Pop Culture and Fandom News. And we're going to go ahead and close out, and I'm going to have my panelists tell you where they can be found. And Carla will tell you about her amazing podcast, Okay, Real Quick, and where that can be found. Take it away, Carla.
Thank you. I will take you to Okay Real Quick, the podcast where I talk about all the things that I want to talk about because it's my podcast and nobody else's. You can find that wherever we found this one. You can also find our social media by looking for @Okay Real Quick wherever you social your media. You can find me, my art, my musings it's at Carla Temis, or my website, carlatemis.com, CarlaTemis.com. Just remember, I am very selective, so I'm not on all the social media, but you can look for me and you may find me. You may also not. Good luck.
Good luck. May the odds ever be in your favor.
May the force be with you.
Yes.
People are out there going to AOL.
Yes. If you've managed also to find a time machine and go back and look for me on AIM, I'm probably not there. So that's the one hint I will give you. You're welcome.
You're like on the dial-up.
Exactly.
I know people who still have AOL email addresses.
Yeah, I've seen those. Whenever I see those, I'm like, whoa.
Oh, well, that's going back.
Welcome. You've got mail. So, Sara?
You can find me on Facebook at Sara Vaquero Barnick. That's BARNAIK. Or on Instagram at NateCamMom. That's NateCammom. Or on TikTok at Sara A. Barnick. Again, SaraABarnaik. That's about it.
So you can follow Fergie the dog on TikTok, where her last TikTok was made. We're not going to say how long ago that was, but it was a long time ago. But if you've never followed her, there's a bunch of new ones that you've never seen. So go ahead and give her a follow on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, links to our social media, including our Discord server, head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. But while you're there, consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get ad-free content, you get episodes a day early, you occasionally win prizes, and you do get bonus episodes. So we are going to do a bonus episode soon. I need to get in touch with Carla, who happens to be here. Because I still want to do an episode about one battle after another. We are also, The Bride comes out. Like, The Bride will be out like a couple days after this episode drops. It's coming this week.
Yeah.
So we are going to do a special Patreon bonus episode talking about The Bride. So whenever Carla sees The Bride, I'm seeing it on Thursday. So, we will do that episode is what I'm trying to say.
We will coordinate.
Yes. So on Friday's episode, Carla and Sara will be back to talk about neurodiversity in media. So until next time, remember it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, and Free Palestine.